Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm David.
And I'm Rob. David and I had a conversation the other day where we were talking about things that had inspired us to be travelers. Neither of us really started traveling until we were adults, and consciously I didn't even really think about it as an option. But looking back, I can see that there were a lot of traveling seeds planted, mainly by Hollywood. It was TV shows and movies that we had watched that kind of just gave us ideas of destinations we wanted to go to. And so we started making a list, and we thought we would share those with you today. We're David and Robb, and we are taking what we are hoping will be a 4-year sabbatical to travel the world. We've lived in and traveled to over 75 countries and territories over the past 30 years, and we are here to share our unconventional life of long-term travel to give you an example of what is possible.
Today is a good day to live.
The only real rule we gave ourselves while we were making this list is that it had to be things that inspired us before we started traveling. So really what we're looking at is most of it is from the 80s. There's a few things that are like classic movies thrown in there. And then at the end, if you stick around, we both chose one book that we read as kids that also inspired us to travel. So stick around for that. I'm going to start because this one is a very obvious one. I think a lot of you will share, but it is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
You have chosen wisely.
Which is a terrific 80s movie. Definitely you can make a case that it inspired us to want to go to Italy, but the main one, of course, is Petra. That classic scene, riding the horses through the canyon in to see Petra. We finally made it to Petra in 2019. Jordan is one of my favorite countries we've ever been to, and a big reason we wanted to go there was because of that movie. Super glad we went there. I would go back and do our exact same 3-week trip there from start to finish over again. It was so much fun. But really, there's just nothing like walking through that canyon and seeing that open up just like I saw when I was a kid. It was really exciting. I really enjoyed that. What's your first one?
My first one I'm going to do is when I was little, we didn't travel much. We would go camping and we would visit my grandparents, and that was it. So I really had no idea that people did things other than that. And then one day I'm watching the Brady Bunch and they went to Hawaii and it changed my view of the world.
Alice hurts her back at a hula lesson.
I loved that episode, and I loved all the tiki intrigue, and all of that would just inspired me to maybe go beyond a camping trip when I grew up.
I have to agree, that was a great one.
That was
I
a
love
good
that
one.
episode. All right, my next one is another adventure classic from the 80s, Romancing the Stone.
Now, I ain't cheap, but I can't be had.
It has definitely made me want to go to Colombia, specifically Cartagena.
I have to get to Cartagena.
Cartagena?
We still have not been there. Well, he has
I've been
been.
there.
I have not. We actually had a cruise book that was supposed to go to Cartagena. I was so excited, and then the stop got canceled, and we got redirected. I was very sad about that. So I'm still going to make it, but it really is just because of that movie that makes me want to go to Colombia.
My next one is another TV show. It's an educational series that I watched every single week. Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Hello, welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
And the host was Marlon Perkins. And it didn't so much inspire me to travel, but I really was interested in seeing all of the animals in their native environments, which involves travel. So I think mostly I was inspired by the ones that took place in Africa. And back in 2019, we got to go to South Africa, and we went to Kruger National Park, and we went on a safari, and I saw all of those animals that I saw on Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and it was amazing.
So my next one is going to make a lot of you laugh if you even remember this movie, but it is called Vibes. It starred Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum, and they go on this...
Don't remember it.
You don't remember it?
No.
They go on this adventure in Peru, and they go to a Machu Picchu-like place. They pretend it's something different, but it's basically Machu Picchu, and there's like psychic powers and whatever. It's a very silly comedy from the 80s.
Where wouldn't you like to be shot?
South America.
But it opened my eyes to South America, and going to Peru and seeing the llamas and the clothes that they wore there. Like, it was just fascinating to me. It's a very silly movie if you want to look at it, but it made us want to go to Peru. We did actually go there in 2010. We spent, I think, 5 weeks going through, but a couple of weeks up in Cusco and Machu Picchu, which is just as beautiful and even better than it was in the movie. Super fantastic. I loved it.
My next one is a movie that I don't even know why I watched it as a child. It's Roman Holiday, starring Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. I was not into those old-fashioned romance movies, but somehow I got a hold of this one and I loved it. And I think what I loved about it was, so the plot is kind of about Audrey Hepburn as a princess, and she never gets to do anything fun, so she escapes from her hotel and she runs into Gregory Peck, who is a reporter, and they end up seeing the city of Rome together.
Champagne, please.
What I loved about it was it's so exciting to get to a city for your first time and explore it. And this was seeing somebody experience that. And I thought it was really amazing. And it was probably the first time I really saw Europe also. And I thought, ooh, I need to get there.
Yeah, we still haven't been to Rome. It is still on our
yet.
list, but we're going to get there.
I'm going to do another one right away.
Okay.
Because it's the same kind of thing. It is The Sound of Music. Our hills are alive. And I loved that movie. I still love that movie. It's maybe one of my all-time favorites. But it's another movie where they explore Salzburg. They are out in the city and they got to wear curtains, which I would have done in a second.
They still have plenty of wear left.
But it was one of those movies where they really get out there and you see the landscape and the beauty of the hillsides, and you can't not want to go there after you watch the movie.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Okay.
The next one for me is a very silly one, but it is The Facts of Life Goes Down Under.
There's only one thing we can do.
That's right. Come on down where you can still have fun with The Facts of Life Down Under Sunday.
I don't even really remember watching that show as a kid, but I definitely remember this episode. Like, it hit a chord. It was probably a special episode where they go to Australia, and I just had this very vivid memory of, like, Natalie and Tootie sitting on the steps of the Opera House. So I finally got to go to Australia for the first time in 1998, and I just had that memory of, like, when I saw the Opera House for the first time. It was so amazing. We've been back a couple of times since, including very recently. Sydney is one of my favorite cities in the world, and maybe part of that is because I watched The Facts of Life Go Down Under. So the next thing I just absolutely had to include here, it is a twofer that made me totally obsessed with going to the South Pacific. The first is a classic Disney movie, Swiss Family Robinson.
But didn't you ever dream of having a house up on a treetop?
I loved this movie as a kid. I could not get enough of it. I mean, first of all, there's pirates in it, so that's very exciting. But just the idea of going to a deserted desert island and having to rummage through, this and salvage all the things from the ship and build your house and your clothes, and like, that was one of my favorite things when we went to Disneyland, was the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. Like, I just loved that whole idea. The second is a TV series from the 80s called Tales of the Gold Monkey. It was a direct correlation to the Indiana Jones series. But
it's terrible.
It's not terrible. I made him watch the whole thing, and maybe it is not the best, but it is super exciting, and especially for a kid. Like, the hero of the show has one of those old seaplanes and, like, travels from different islands to different islands. Many of them were probably made up for the show, but still, it absolutely fascinated me. We finally got to the South Pacific. Just this year, we took a cruise and got to hit like 6 or 7 different islands. Made it to French Polynesia and Tahiti and Fiji and Vanuatu. It was so exciting and just kind of satiates that desire that I had as a kid, where I just wanted to go there because I saw it on TV.
The book I'd like to talk about is My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell. It is the story of a young kid whose family moves to Corfu, Greece, and he explores the countryside looking for bugs and frogs and owls and all kinds of amazing creatures. And that was exactly the kind of kid that I was when I was young. So I really loved everything about this book, but mostly Gerald Durrell makes the countryside another character in the book. And I just needed to go to Corfu and see everything that it had to offer.
Yeah, he made me read this book when we first met, and I 100% agree. It is a delightful book if you haven't read it. They have made it into a movie and a TV show since. So you could look it up for that, but the book is really terrific. There's also a sequel, so it'll keep you entertained.
There's a sequel, and he wrote about 20 other books about his, as an adult, exploring the world when he was collecting for zoos. So,
yeah, very interesting. Yeah. So for me, the book was not even a question. I knew exactly what it was going to be. It is Thor Heyerdahl, who was a Norwegian explorer back in the 50s and 60s, well, and probably beyond that. But he wrote 2 books that just fascinated me as a kid, Kon-Tiki and Aku Aku. His theory was that Easter Island was not only populated by people from the Polynesian Islands, but that they had also come from Peru. And he had a whole theory about that. To prove his theory, he built an old reed raft like they used to build in Peru and sailed it all the way across to the Polynesian Islands. And then he did a second expedition specifically in Easter Island where he dug up some of the moai. He had a lot of fascinating theories. I think most of them have been since proven not to be true, but as a kid, it was super interesting to me. So back in 2012, we did make it to Norway. He has a museum in Oslo that was super interesting. The boat was there, and we got to watch a documentary of him on the ship sailing across the Pacific Ocean. Super, super interesting. And then finally, I was so excited. We made it to Easter Island in 2019. 2020. Well, we were there for New Year's Eve, 2020.
Yes.
It was amazing. We spent 10 days there. I could have spent a lot longer. Everything about it just fascinated me. We brought Aku Aku with us, and I read it while we were there. We got to go and see the places where he had been and dug up stuff and looked through the museums. One of my favorite places I've ever been, and it is solely because I read those books as a kid. So if you are interested in Easter Island, definitely recommend reading those books. And then I recommend going to Easter Island because it's amazing. We do have a few bonus ones that still kind of inspired us for different things. I'm just going to run through a couple of them. One, the movie The Power of One. One of my favorite movies when I was in high school, and it totally made me want to go to South Africa. The King and I.
Sam's biggest country in the world!
A great movie set in Thailand. Totally captured my imagination. This is real. I can't help it. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I still want to go to the Alamo and look for the basement.
Aren't we going to see the basement?
There's no basement at the Alamo.
I know it's not there, but I still want to go. Mm-hmm. Journey to the Center of the Earth still makes me want to go to Iceland. And then another duo for France, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and the wonderful Jo Beth Williams movie, American Dreamer.
Miss Ryan. Rebecca Ryan.
What do you want to know about this woman?
She thinks she's a character.
And my bonus are a trio of kid classics: Wizard of Oz, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and what was the last one? Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. All of them inspired my sense of adventure, and I just wanted to do what those kids were doing.
Violet, you're turning violet, Violet!
What are you talking about?
So that is the list of inspiration that we came up with, but I am very curious. I know we have left things out. What things have inspired you to travel? Is there movies? Is there books? Is there a TV show? Please leave those in the comments below. I would love to see them. Maybe it'll give us some ideas of some movies we need to watch or some books we need to read. So please put those down below if there's anything that we left out. If you enjoyed this video, the best way you can support our channel is by subscribing or liking this video. We do release a new video every Sunday, so we will be back next week and we will see you then.
I'm David.
What did you
start? I was
daydreaming.
Oh, hummingbird. Now for my book.
My book. I'm going to tell you about my book. If you enjoyed this content, please
dance.
Please dance.